Hey, Talking Shizzle studio fans. Today I sat down with Kathy Kempff. Kathy is a good friend of mine, and she is the founder of Nuclavis, and they are building mobile fundraising solutions to help nonprofits connect with their audience of donors and event participants and engage more, create more community and conversations, and ultimately raise more money for awesome causes. So in today's episode, Kathy and I sat down and we talked all about building a product and taking it to market, because Kathy started her product in 2023 and launched her product to market in 2023. And she's taken off, and it's been just amazing to watch her grow. So she has really awesome feedback and tips and advice on how to think about taking a new product to market, how to sort of not make some of the mistakes that are common mistakes when taking a product to market, and ultimately how to get customer feedback and put that into your product. So I hope you enjoy this episode. Here we go with Kathy. All right, what's up, party people? We're here with a new episode of Talking Shizzle. I'm super excited to have my good friend Kathy on the line today with us to talk about building products. What is up, Kathy?
It's very fast year. I'm so excited to be here. And as you know, as a startup founder and business owner, time is of essence. Building products, getting them to market. Time goes by really quickly, but it can also be a lot of fun.
I know. Okay, so you built Nuclavis, and when you launched Nuclavis, really launched to market your new app and your mobile fundraising platform, and what was it, early 2022?
2023. So it's just been 2 years.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. So in less than 2 years, you have a fully custom app solution, and you've got all of these other pathways that you have put mobile apps into tons of organizations who aren't on the custom path. Tell me a little bit about your journey in 2 years, which is astounds me, but you're kind of you're a special person. We're cut from the same cloth, aren't we? You have all these apps in market now, and it's not just one mobile solution in 2 years. Tell me a little bit about your journey at Nuclavis.
So I've been in the space for about 25 years and have an incredible passion for peer-to-peer and nonprofits specifically. I had left my last position and took about a year off and knew I wanted to dabble in something nonprofit, but I didn't know what. And so at about that year mark, I decided to start reaching out to folks that I knew in the space and understand where there was demand. So I initially had a different product idea, but I ended up getting pulled into build me a better mobile app. And that was the consistent theme that I heard from nonprofits that I had worked with in the past. And there wasn't a lot of competition in the space. And so there was really a hunger for something better, something more modern, and a more white glove service approach, right? A lot of times, you can just sell software and you contact customers at renewal, but the nonprofit space is really different, right? They really require a lot of support throughout the process. They're thinly staffed. And so there's really an appreciation and desire for turnkey solutions that include just do it for me, product license, and just do it for me. And so we took about 5 to 6 months to develop an MVP. And I really do think that is so important to understand what the market wants, help the market define your roadmap rather than you blindly thinking these are the priorities and these are the feature sets that work. And I reached out to a couple of organizations that I knew in the space and offered them a pilot program at no cost in exchange for marketing, right? And I think that's so important when you go to market, is having some successes under your belt so that people don't feel like they're the first, right? And that costs, right? Like it's definitely something that you're not going to be making money on, but I find that it's really effective. I had 2 people that we had partnered with, and it's also important to pick the right type of folks, folks that are going to provide, that collaborative experience, really constructive feedback, and help you make the product better. And are they really representing the market as a whole rather than, oh, this is a niche type of, use case and no one else is really going to use that. And so I actually had my big product launch 2 years ago, as I mentioned, at this big conference that was specifically for this set of organizations. And I had a case study and I had those customers there, and they were able to share like, oh yeah, the product is great. And by the way, you can check it out on my phone. Was it full of bells and whistles? Was it, fully built out? Absolutely not. But it was good enough. It was good enough to demonstrate, we could raise money. It could be a, modern technology that's native that would solve some of these nonprofits' problems. And so I think that really allowed us to start developing that trust and interest in folks to be like, oh, I'm gonna watch for what they're doing, and really help us accelerate that customer growth over the last 2 years. So a lot of continued development. It's never done with software. It's an iterative process, especially mobile. Changes so much, whether it's Android or Apple making changes and new OS versions that you need to be compliant with. It really is something that you need to constantly be innovating in order to make sure that you are still delivering, that value to the customers that you're working with.
Yeah, one of the things, first off, I really like your approach around giving it away for free to get some of those testimonials and marketing and like success stories. So it's not just like, hey, here we are with our idea. It's going to be great. You're like giving it the opportunity to really be put into action and have clients and customers tell other people about what it's like. So I think that's really, really smart. I also really like your advice around like it's not going to be perfect, but like launched is better than perfect, because once you get it out there, then you can iterate on it. It's hard though, because like you're like, oh, but this one more thing, but this one more thing, but this one more thing, but then like that costs you a lot of time and money. And one of the things that I've been so impressed by is you've got these custom white labeled solutions, kind of like white glove solutions, but then you also went to partners in your market and found all of these like white labeled opportunities too, where it's like other software companies who don't have this specific mobile technology can create a custom solution for their clients and platform. And so you've really been able to like grow rapidly, I think, because you put so much thought into like your partner strategy as well. Like what would you say went into that? So you sort of like launched the first iteration and got some key clients to use it. Tell me a little bit more about your partner strategy.
So I think a big element is trying to see holistically what the opportunity as a whole, and not necessarily thinking about what do other people do, but if we had no barriers, if we had, unlimited time and money, how deep could you sell this product? Is it a global solution? Is it, could the same solution be applied to different aspects of the market? And so, while I had a lot of deep relationships in the nonprofit space, I wanted to make sure that partners and agencies were recommending us, were trying to use our solutions as they were trying to provide value to their own customers. And so, I spent a lot of time with, okay, who are the top 10, partners that are strong influencers in the space? How can I build relationships with them? How can I deepen the partnership? whether it's, sponsoring their conferences, showing up at their conferences, creating a white label solution for them, building a case study with a joint customer, doing a webinar. How could I give something to them that it would give them a reason to want to work with me? And so, it's not just what am I taking, but what am I giving? And I think that that's such an important part of the partnership component. I have probably 25 to 30% of my business is referrals to partners, which just comes from investing in those relationships and making sure that they see value. For me in particular, one of the things that we, position is if your customers use our product, they're raising more money. All of them are making money off transaction revenue. So there's something in it for them because their customers are more successful. They're raising more money, win-win for both of us. And so we actually recently launched our benchmark report that has some of these stats that help provide, how do we measure the value? What's the impact? What's the ROI? And I share that with not just prospects, but also the partners because they want their customers happy, raising more money and sticky. They want them to stay on their platform. And so that has been, definitely another big component, and not being tied to North America. I think that's another big piece is a lot of the other providers have been US and Canada only, but there's a whole world out there. There's so much fundraising in Australia, Europe. We already support multilingual. So why are we creating these geographical barriers around our customer base? So we're currently exploring, a couple of prospects in Europe and Australia, and potentially increasing our staffing overseas to help support those relationships. And really thinking about could you double your revenue if you, drop those geographical barriers to allow us to serve the greater good?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the world is flat, right? Thomas Friedman. I don't know if you've read that book, but yeah, we live in a global economy these days, and with the internet and with the way that technology works, there's no reason. I've been thinking about that too with what are other markets where, and particularly I noticed this because we were both at that same fundraising conference last week where we saw each other, and there's a lot going on in Australia. A lot. And I keep seeing a lot of Australian companies come to these nonprofit tech conferences. More and more I've noticed over the last couple of years. I'm meeting a lot more Australians. So there's definitely room for growth when you look outside just the US and Canada, which is kind of, I think people get blinders on and they get a little bit myopic, but big world. Okay. So let's talk a little bit.
Sorry, just to say, it's if you've already invested in developing a product and all you have to do is enable a language or enable, changing how you display the currency sign or something as silly as that.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you expand to a whole other market if you can have such a lift in revenue? It's, I definitely think sometimes we just artificially create these barriers around us in terms of what the market potential is, but it's really, unlimited.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially with markets where English is the common language. There's a lot of those too, even just from a sales perspective, for you and stuff and your team. Plus AI can translate anything now. So it's easier and easier to do. It's getting a lot easier to do. Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about finding gaps in the market. How do you go about solving problems or identifying problems that need solving?
I think the first thing is listening. And it's talking to the customers or prospects in that space and really understanding what are the problems? What is currently working? What's not working? Where are there opportunities? And making sure that you're doing your homework on what else is available. And is this maybe something that can be solved in a creative way? I think you don't always have to be first to market, but you could always be entering the market with this keen eye on how can I do something better and different to solve whatever this market is. And I think I can give you a really good example. When I was going to market and we were getting demand for building a mobile app, I was really listening to this consistent theme of customers saying, I would love to have a single destination for everything. Like, why would I need to have a different app for each of my different brands when we are one brand, right? We are organization XYZ, and we might have sub brands within those, but we don't necessarily want to have different apps. And so when we were architecting our product, we really took that to heart, to making sure, like, let's look at this as a greater vision. We could still do a small sub app if that's what they chose, but if we were truly trying to solve this organizational fundraising app demand and requirement, that really was a fundamental architectural decision we need to make day one. And, ultimately that's paid off. And it was something that nobody else had done. But if I hadn't been really listening closely to customers right at the beginning in terms of what was the market need, what was the demand that they wanted, we would have missed the mark. And I would say that's probably one of our greatest selling points today.
Okay, I like that. Yeah, that makes me think about. Okay, so first I want to take a step back and just sort of like explain that for people who maybe don't know what it is. So, in that context, it's like an organization that's using your mobile fundraising technology, like app platform, to create app experiences for all these different types of events that they're hosting, as opposed to just like maybe before you guys launched this, they had to go and like build separate apps for every single event they hosted. And now you're saying we're going to approach it from the brand level, knowing you've got all these different events that you're running that are, marketing, fundraising, community building events. One app, they're all kind of the same, but they're unique because they have different participants and audiences in it. Is that it?
Exactly. It's almost like micro apps
Okay.
within a umbrella app, so that you can still have your individual brand at maybe the event level, but their most valuable asset is their organizational brand. And
Yeah.
so how do we maintain that over the course of the relationship so that
Mhm.
they know organizationally, who they are, rather than just that sub brand?
Yeah, yeah. So let's like take, for example, we'll talk about like Alzheimer's. They're a good friend of ours. So Alzheimer's Association, they're the Alzheimer's Association. In their mobile app, they're going to be able to have people sign up and do their walk to end Alzheimer's. They'll also be able to sign up for the longest day, and like they've got a cycle event, right? So like all
Mm-hmm.
of those sort of like have the Alzheimer's brand at the top of it, but then within each event experience, they've got like a localized kind of like micro brand for that event within the app.
Exactly. So the app is
Mm.
called ALZ Fundraising. And so when you
Yeah.
log in, it'll know who you are. So based on what you are participating in, you either could get the walk experience or a ride experience or maybe an endurance
Mhm.
experience. So um, you could have those sub brands within
Yeah.
that same collective whole.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, because it brings that brand consistency. This is a really good example of like where brand consistency kind of comes into place, that a lot of times it's easy to sort of like go on these one-off directions, but when you think about like the full life cycle experience of someone with an organization or with your brand, like that consistency across touch points matters
Mm-hmm.
so much. So I like
Yeah.
that y'all are thinking about that. Um, all right, let's get into data versus instinct when you are building products. I've gone on a lot of instinct for building kind of what we're about to launch, but like a lot of like anecdotal data over the years and like customer interview and like market interview type data. Tell me about how you think and how you balance data versus instinct when you're approaching, product creation.
Um, so in lieu of data, I use instinct. But if I have data, I would always use data.
Mm.
So when you're creating your MVP, you can, get customer feedback and things to that effect. But quite frankly, you're getting guided by your instinct, your experience, what you think should work or what clients want and need. And then once you launch, use data to help refine. That would be my recommendation. And I can give you a really good example of that. When we first launched our product, post-pandemic, in my mind, everyone's using QR codes. QR codes is the way of the future. And I, wanted that to be front and center in terms of the fundraising channel. And that was my instinct. And we launched it, and I was looking at my data, and the conversion rate was really low. I was like, this just doesn't make sense. Like, everyone's doing QR codes. Like, why is this feature not working? And so I could see through Google Analytics and event tracking all these users that were using the feature, but it didn't translate into gifts. And so when I compared that conversion rate to other features, it was really not performing as well as it should. And so I actually started having conversations with customers. And one customer was like, well, Kathy, the reason that conversion rate isn't really successful is most people are on their phones. And if you're sharing a QR code, they can't scan it on their own phone. And I was like, oh my God, like, I didn't even realize that, right? And so I had to put myself in the shoes of the user, not just using my instinct to help refine it. I actually used Venmo as a example of, they do a great job with sharing of their QR code. And it's like, you can do native sharing. If you're sharing it on a mobile device, you're sharing a URL, not an image, because if you're on a mobile device, you can't scan it yourself, right? And so it's using the data to help refine. And now that one feature is responsible for 38% of our product revenue. And so we went from a failing feature, even though I knew in my heart and my instinct it was a good feature, to refining it to make sure it was actually effective. And so sometimes you can be guided by instinct, but you can use data to help refine and make sure that you're getting the results that you expect.
That is such a good story. And like the fact that you turned it around and now it's such a large driver of revenue. Yeah. I know, it's funny. I've had some people recently do like send me QR codes, and I had that exact experience where I'm like, what do I do with this? I'm looking at it on my phone. I literally need another phone. I'll like my kids next to me. I'll be like, hey, give me your phone. Why? I need to scan this QR code. I can't like scan myself here. Yeah. But it's such a good example of like getting something out there, like listening to like, why is this not working? Like noticing the patterns, so like being open to like looking for patterns, seeing patterns, and then digging deeper. And then it sounds like you went to customers to get that qualitative data too, where they're like, duh, oh yeah, okay, got it.
Well, and I think the other thing is, as a founder, product designer, is being okay with someone calling your baby ugly, right? It's like, you put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into developing your product. You think it's great, but you have to be open to that feedback and open to someone criticizing it and helping you make it better. And so, just being able to have those great conversations with customers and letting them tear it apart so that you can figure out and identify and pull out those nuggets that you think are really valuable that can help make the product better.
Yeah. So on that topic, okay, here's one thing I notice and I see, and I get this feedback. First off, yes, like your baby's ugly. Okay, tell me why. What's ugly about the baby? Because I thought it had a cute bonnet on today. But there's also, on the flip side of that, once you start building product, everyone will always have an opinion. There's always going to be like, oh, y'all should do this. Oh, y'all should do this. Oh, y'all should do this. And so there's a lot of one-off opinions that I find that aren't necessarily, some of them are great. And they are like the greater good of thinking. But sometimes there's just a lot of one-off opinions too, in terms of like feature requests. How do you manage that?
So that's a great point. I will say the first year, our product roadmap was really driven by our two largest customers. But to your point, I think it was really getting driven by just those enterprise voices versus our entire customer base. So what we did last year is we actually launched our product council, and we, set up 2 90-minute calls with them. All the customers had one seat at the table. Everyone is equal, whether you're small or large. And we presented a number of different product feature ideas that they had given to us and we had generated ourselves, and gave them a platform to add more. And then we gave each of those products a points value. So t-shirt sizing, like small, medium, large. And we gave each of them a number of points to spend. So if you had 100 points for the year, where would you allocate your spend? And so we looked at what are the features that had the most points and most votes, and making sure that we weren't just letting one or two customers drive the roadmap and the squeaky wheel, but is it really representing of like how everyone would prioritize these features to make sure that we were listening and helping them guide our roadmap rather than us without their input or just a couple of clients.
Okay, I like that. Yeah, that's a good way to like get people involved and kind of like make it a little bit fun with the point system too.
Yeah.
I like that you did that as opposed to just like, hey, what do you think? You like you kind of put like a system to around it. I like that a lot. That's really, really good. Okay, so to sort of close this out today, I am curious, like, I don't know, give me like a funny aha moment you've had as someone who is a startup founder building a technology company, you know. I think just kind of starting from scratch, yourself and like building a team and building a client base. Like, give me one of those aha moments that was like a really, really like, wow, that was awesome. And then an aha moment where you're like, shit, I like wish I had known to do that differently.
I would say a good aha moment was really the importance of connecting with the partners. When I first started, I deprioritized that because I thought it was more important to be close with the customers themselves. And when I started building relationships with those partners and starting seeing fruits of those relationships and starting to get referral business and the word of mouth, because the word of mouth, especially in this sector, is so important and vital to get recommendations. I think that was probably a pivotal moment for us in terms of growth, is making sure the word on the street was they're great, customers are so happy, and you're going to be able to raise more money. A not great moment, I would say, is building features or products that I didn't necessarily have a customer for. So, there were integrations that we built that it's like, oh, if we build this integration, customers will come. And what I really learned is like, don't do it unless you have a customer. And because if you don't have a customer, like who knows if you actually have that demand. And so I would say that's probably the biggest thing I learned is don't do it unless there's already someone at your door saying, I want it. Whether it's a feature or a new integration, because that's really indicative of, is there actually a market for it? Is there demand? So I think there's a couple of things that, we built over the last couple of years that if I had hindsight 2020, I probably would have waited until there was demand before making that investment. Because like to your point, I bootstrapped the whole thing. I, had to carefully figure out where am I investing? Where am I getting the biggest bang for my buck? And I don't think that was the best investment in the early days.
Yeah. Do you have, just to add on that, this kind of final point to make, any like one big tip you'd give to someone who's bootstrapping a technology company?
Take it one day at a time, but have a long-term vision. I actually went back and I was working with an executive coach, and had a 1 year and a 3 year plan I had laid out. And I kept revisiting it to make sure that I was not taking shortcuts. I wasn't taking revenue to take revenue. I was like, this is the type of revenue that I want and the type of business that I want to run and operate. And not grow to grow, right? It's making sure you are staying true to who you want to be down the road, not just like, oh, that's attractive revenue, but you might regret where you end up landing. So if you almost think about the analogy of like you're floating on a river and you're on a raft, it's like, are you actually rowing and going somewhere? Or are you letting the flow and the current take you? And then you don't know where you land. So I think it's making sure that you're rowing, you are actually in charge of where you're going, and you're making those cognitive decisions along the way and being very intentional and deliberate rather than just letting life take you.
Yeah, I love it. The dogs had something to say about that too.
Well, the yard people just arrived, so perfect timing.
I was like, someone's at the door. Someone's at the door. Well, hey, Kathy Kempff, it's been awesome to talk to you. Thanks for being my friend and for just kind of being a good partner in our sector. Kathy and I like to talk a lot because we're both like bootstrapping companies that started sort of right around the same time, and so it's been fun to like kind of like talk to each other through the journey. And I just always appreciate you so much.
I do too. It's always nice to lean on someone who's going through, similar challenges and opportunities, and have someone that you can count on for advice. So I appreciate you, and I'm so excited to see how your new product launch comes as well.
Yeah, coming soon. All right. So if people want to find you online, get in touch, learn more about Nuclavis, what's the best way to do that?
Nuclavis.com, and you can always reach out to us at info@nuclavis.com.
Cool. Until next time, friends, I hope this was helpful. I hope it inspired you in some way, and go get that good shizzle done.